Hey everybody, it's Miss Phoebus, and I'm back with another design mathematics lesson on ancient American mathematics. This is our last civilization that we're going to talk about, but this is by no means the fourth and only civilization that were in ancient North, South, Middle America. So there are other tribes and things, but we are looking at the Aztecs today. So the capital of the Aztecs, which is Tenochtitlan, was was built on Lake Texcoco on raised islands. The Aztecs formed an empire commanding tribute from other city-states in Mesoamerica, and they became a dominant power in the 1100s. The cool thing about the Aztecs, they actually got driven from their homeland, where further up north in Mexico, and they decided that they weren't going to have it, and that they were going to build a place and they were going to not be messed with again. So they were not going to be pushed anymore. And so that idea led to lots and lots of decisions that they made in the future that they are well known for, ritual sacrifice, but made them look really, really brutal. But that it was one of those things where they weren't going to be stepped on again. They weren't going to be walked on again. They were going to be the boss. They were going to be in charge. And so they built an empire around Lake Texcoco, and actually their city was in the middle of a lake, which leads to lots of engineering issues because you deal with water, lots of engineering, and guess what, guys? Lots of engineering means lots of math. The Aztecs left most of the most extensive mathematical writings of any pre-Columbian period. The Aztecs left the most extensive mathematical writings of any pre-Columbian people. They took the Olmec and Incan and Mayan mathematics and they expanded off of it. So they used old number system but altered it a little bit, and you get these really cool symbols to represent mathematical numbers, and they look very arty. And their number system is still base 20. So the larger your number is, the more decorative it becomes. They were also big into calendars. So this is an Aztec round calendar. One of them is in black and white, but I had that there because it shows you the size, and can contrast to the people that are standing there. But it is also very colorful as well, or we believe it's been painted in the past. And so this is one of their gods. Some people argue that it's the sun god. Some people argue that it's an earth god, but it is one of their gods, and you read the calendar by looking at the different shapes and symbols. There are somewhere, and I just was reading about it, but somewhere there are 5 circles, and those 5 circles are 5 unlucky days because they are set aside for ritual sacrifice. Uh, so they had a lot of calendar stuff, but we know that in the region for a long time they've had these round and long calendars, and so the Aztecs contributed to that as well. They had pictographs, so they had hieroglyphic type of writing, and so here are some of the ancient Aztec writing where it shows some of the pictures, and so that you can see that they put pictures together even to build new words. And then one of the other things that I found is that they were one of the first people in the world to require a universal education system. So that means regardless of your race, regardless of your gender, or your just your background, you were expected to be educated, and they educated everybody in their empire. And so all the children got educated, girls until they were 15, and then they did not. They then became homemakers and wives and contributed in other ways. Boys could continue their education, and once past the age of 15, they they had some options, but a lot of them went to almost like a boarding school where they went to school away from their home. So they went away to go to schooling. That wasn't necessary, though. You could still live at home and still further your education as well. But they wanted you to be educated as a young person. And of course, education is power, right? The more you know, the more powerful you can become. Some of the mathematics that we know that about their number system. For a long time, we knew that we had numbers, but we didn't really understand what they were until we got this ancient Aztec map showing land dimensions. And then we started understanding their mathematics, like how they used it. So two manuscripts were uncovered in the 70s and 80s, and they intrigue scholars because they show land holdings along the Valley of Mexico along with their measurements, and Aztec numbering system for purposes of taxation. So you're an empire, you definitely want to be able to tax the people around you to sustain that empire. So Aztec surveyors probably use several types of algorithms to calculate areas. So we have some shapes that are pretty regular, and those you're going to figure out the areas by multiplying length times width. But then you have some other shapes that are irregular, and they had to come up with a different approach. So sometimes they multiplied the average of the two opposite sides by an adjacent side to figure out the area of that land parcel. And then based on the land parcel, they did a lot of proportional stuff based on the size of your land, how much of the taxes do you owe. When a measurement did not match a precise number of land rods, that was their measuring unit, which was about 2.5 meters, the Aztec added some different symbols, and that's where they didn't really know until more recently what those symbols meant. So things like an arrow, a heart, a hand, or a bone indicated remaining length that was less than 1 rod. So that would mean that the arrow, the heart, the hand, or the bone would be considered fractions. So we're not only measuring and finding area, we're also being introduced to the idea of fractions as well. So there is a video I want you to watch. It goes more in depth with the Aztecs. You can see what's going on as far as their culture and their beginnings, and also having to deal with the water in the lake as they basically they build a city on top of the water. And what does that look like, and what does that mean? So it's a really interesting video. You should check it out. The Aztecs were at the peak of their power when in 1521 they were destroyed by Hernan Cortez and the Spanish conquistadors. Now, remember that I told you the Aztecs were pretty much bullied out of their own homes, had to go and find a new place to live. That's kind of why they were on the water. I think they wanted to isolate themselves to protect them, almost like putting a moat around your house or something like that. You're in the middle of a lake, it's going to be hard to get to you. And they also did the human sacrifice. It was like a threat of human sacrifice would keep people from bothering you, right? So if I'm, okay, you're going to conquer me, then we're going to sacrifice you when you lose. They kind of use that as a threat. They were not beyond putting, people, like other civilizations that were bothering them, like capturing their kids and locking them in cages, which sounds like really, really brutal, but what they're trying to do is they're like, hey, don't mess with us because we're bad news. And they're trying to promote that idea. When Cortez gets to find the Aztecs and sees what's going on, they don't like that. They think of them as being brutal and savages and not really knowing their backstory and how they got to that point. So I do know that kind of earlier in the 1500s, according to my reading, they were performing more ritual sacrifices, and we think that it's because of maybe there was some complications with the weather. The weather was not doing not performing well for crops, or it was being too harsh. They were having a hard time, and so they felt like if they sacrificed more humans, then maybe that would appease the gods and they would have better time. But so because of all of that, uh, Hernan Cortez was like, you guys are done. We're not going to put up with this. This is terrible. And they were not doing nice things. I agree with that, but they pretty much wiped everything out, and they destroyed the city of Tenochtitlan. And Mexico City, which is the capital of Mexico, is built on the ruins of Tenochtitlan. So there were some pyramids in the region, but they were actually there before the Aztecs. So if you do a little bit of research on the Aztecs and you see pyramids, they didn't actually build them. They were there before they got there. But there's like a pyramid of the sun and a pyramid of the moon. Um, but that's the Aztecs, guys. And that is the last civilization. Now, there's another video available to you, so you can go back and you can watch kind of all of them together. We actually did them out of order, where the Aztecs are last, but it's the Olmecs, then the Mayans, then the Inca, then the Aztecs. So we did them out of order a little bit, but there's another video that you can watch that kind of pulls them all together. Again, these are not the only Mesoamerican civilizations during that time. There are others, but these are the ones that are best known and most well known, and you can find stuff about their mathematics. So that's why we're talking about them. We are going to move into ancient Greek mathematics, and as we do that, we are going to find that we have more people that we can name, that these people are doing things. So we're going to not necessarily just focus on Greek mathematics, but we're going to start looking at specific mathematicians and how they contributed to the mathematics that we know and or will experience in the future. So I'm looking forward to that. I like the Greek mathematicians. They really kind of think outside the box sometimes. All right. Have a wonderful week. You have 2 videos this week, 2 assignments to do, and I will get some more stuff for you in the next week. Bye, guys.